Today on The Riff, Jeremy and Justin talk about time management. But before they talk about that, they talk about the show The Chosen for 15 minutes. Not the best time management, if you ask me. We hope today is helpful and hopeful. Thanks for listening.
Welcome, Riff Nation, Riff Raff, Riffites,
Riff Nation,
Riff International.
There you go.
Welcome to another episode. This is like episode, I don't know. It's a lot of them.
A lot of them.
A lot of them.
It's a lot of them.
Justin, good to see you.
That's good to see you too.
Good to see you. Before we get rolling, we'll see if we get anything else going today. But you have recently started watching The Chosen.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a little late to the game.
Well,
don't, and I understand, but I don't want to know how it ends. But it's not looking good right now.
Explain that. What's going on? If you're not familiar with The Chosen, it's a story of Jesus,
and
which there is a best-selling book,
which I have not read the end of that one.
It is based on a true story.
I've started it a couple times and not been able to.
Yep.
No,
it's a lot of words.
It's a lot of words, and the pages are so thin.
Very.
So it's looking. He's making some people mad.
What?
Yeah, and honestly, I don't.
He's one of the best guys out there.
But I don't know. But I'm just okay. Like honest thought.
Thank you.
Honest. No, I'm just saying my honest thought.
Oh no,
Yeah,
I know. And I am
thought.
saying I'm thankful that you're being honest.
Oh, thank you.
I think that's a step.
No, thank you. I think he dies. I do. I think they're going to kill him. Because they're
why? Okay, I've watched a lot of series.
Yeah.
Where are you on? Series 1? Series 2?
Seasons? Like the seasons? We just finished season 2, so I'm on season 3. But don't.
Okay, I'm just saying this. Forget The Chosen. Have you ever watched an episode where they killed off the main character?
No. I mean, Game of Thrones, they kind of do, but the twist is he comes back.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, that was crazy.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Also, spoiler alert: Game of Thrones. Sorry about that, but you've had time to watch it.
Game of Thrones?
Yeah, I mean,
I've not. I've not.
Wow.
I've heard it's got Old Testament violence.
It's got a lot of Old Testament stuff in it, so not just violence, but you're just gonna want to stay away from a lot of that.
For the longest time,
Golly.
I thought Words with Friends was Game of Thrones. Because the only time I'd ever play that was when I was going to the bathroom. And so I thought that was the pet name for Words with Friends.
Unbelievable.
So tell me this, okay?
Yeah.
And again, we're not officially paid by The Chosen.
Could be.
Yeah, but we're not.
Not against
not
it.
Yet.
But
not against it.
we're not. We're not.
Do you have a favorite episode so far?
Oh, there's some really good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think the one where you meet Simon, the Zealot, is my favorite one right now.
Okay.
That one.
Give us a little bit of.
There's 2 of them right now.
Okay, give us a little Simon. Walk us through Simon the Zealot. The Zealot is the guy who passionately doesn't like Roman Empire.
Correct, and you realize that his brother. I mean, it's a story, right? It's narrative, but in The Chosen, they picture him as having a brother that is paralyzed, and then Jesus heals him at the pool. It's just this, the way that just the first opening segment of that episode where they give the story of how his brother became paralyzed. There's no words, there's no dialogue, there's no monologue. It's just images, and it's so powerful. It's so good. That one's probably my second favorite. My favorite one still is they jump to the future, and John is writing his gospel, and he's interviewing people, and then he's trying to figure out how to start his gospel, and then he realizes how he'll start it, remembering a story, and the story is just incredible. It's just it's such a good show, man.
It's a great show.
Such a good show.
Now,
and I don't like stuff like that. I've never been like, oh, I can't wait to watch this like Jesus show.
Right.
And like, because they feel very, very corny to me, and they feel very like I don't know. This is unbelievable, man. It's so well done.
Yeah.
It's just so good. What were you going to say? I'm sorry.
Well, no, I feel kind of the same way especially when it comes to pop culture or Christian culture, when someone oversells it. Mm-hmm. I tend to be like, it's probably not that good. So I almost found myself, not only expecting, but kind of hoping it was cheesy, because in my mind, I'm like, no one's going to be able to put together Christian production in a way that is breathtaking. And here's where I compare it. I think the writers of The Chosen are on par with the writers of This Is Us. In the sense of, when I watch This Is Us, and again, maybe the riffraff is taking a turn here. We're like Rotten Tomatoes, but it's fruit inspectors because it's spiritual fruit. What do you think? No. Spitballing.
I would love this. I love it. I love it. Is fruitinspectors.com taken?
Yeah, but .church is still available. By the way, northpointchurch.tv. Is TV like television or Tel Aviv? I've never, because I don't see a lot of .tvs.
I don't either. And every time I have to tell somebody the website, I do say television, as in television. And then the question is always, are you on TV? And then the answer is always, no.
But you can, if you've got a Roku.
You can sling it to your TV. So, I mean, it's up to you, honestly.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So reflect that question back to you, yeah.
So, with This Is Us, I just feel like the transitions are like, you're like, that was well written. The Chosen is one of those situations where, now here's the deal. Some people are like, I don't like The Chosen because it's a narrative, and I don't like to blend fantasy with Bible, okay? Which, side note, some of the Bible's fantasy. So, I mean, like, and I'm not saying it's not true, but I'm just saying there's genres of this, right? So,
yes.
I think the original authors had not as big of a problem with it. But anyway, so some people, though, are like, I want to keep it totally separate, and it's got to be like a auditory reading of the King James Version for it to be spiritual in this picture. But here's what I love. We know that these were real people, real events at a real time, and we don't know that the Simon the Zealot was connected, probably not related statistically to the dude at the pool of Bethesda,
right,
who was paralyzed. But we do know that everyone that Jesus encountered had a backstory. And what it does is it takes the stories and gives them an example of a backstory that makes them hard to shake, because you're like, that's a real person. And whether it was this story or a different backstory, good governor. It's so a great
and
one.
even how it starts, right? With Simon and owing money and having to fish and do this and do that. Like, we were even able to talk with the girls because they saw the first like 2 or 3, and we're not letting them watch it. And the reason for that is we want them to read it, right? Because they loved it. They were like, can we watch more? And then we're like, later, like, read the stories, and then these become more colorful to what's happening.
Yes.
Instead of the other way around.
Yes.
And people might disagree with that. Whatever. They're my kids. So,
Honestly, that's been my parenting principle. Can't go wrong.
I feel like it's very helpful. Yeah, it's very healthy.
Whatever, man. They're my kids.
I'm not listening to you. I don't need growth. I don't need anybody to pour into me. But where was I talking about? What was I saying?
You were talking about they were going to read it first.
Oh, yeah. So we were even able to talk with them because they've read the story of Peter and dropping the nets and all that. And then I just said to Lily, I was like, have you ever thought about, like, why was he fishing so late? Like, why is he fishing so much? I mean, is that his real job? Is that the thing? Like, that's his profession, and it's like supposed to paint this picture that he just drops his profession, or was he in trouble? Like, what do you think? So it just brings up cool questions, right? So whatever the narrative might be, for me, it's made me even explore and wrestle with scripture more.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh man, what was he going through? Right? I'm going to read that again.
Yeah.
So I think it's healthy. I think it's a healthy thing, even if it might be elements to it that are narrative driven, that are not found in scripture.
It's powerful.
Really,
it's so powerful.
So good.
I just love the way it forces you to look at characters on a page as people in a real life story.
Yeah.
And it reminds you, this was a redemptive story from the very beginning through our own time and beyond us. Is the story of Jesus, the story of God bringing hope to individuals. So anything that helps us do that, again, it's not a theological treatise. It's a story that helps us understand who Jesus is and the nature. So I love that. What's interesting too is, some of the things, going over to Israel a few times and just kind of, for me, it's kind of like a hands-on, I never desired to go to Israel. So like for real, like it was never like, man, I want to go to Israel. I had zero interest in going to Israel because I'm thinking I could Google image anything I need to. I can read about anything I need to. And one of our leaders kept telling me, man, you've got to go to Israel. And I'm like, I'm not going to go to Israel. So as a matter of fact, I did think it's probably important. I knew there was a lot of people who would want to go to Israel, and I thought it's probably important for a church to offer that. So our first trip to Israel, I set it up where John Jay was going to lead this trip to Israel, and through this professional tour guide, the Center for Holy Land Studies, they do this for a living. That's what they do. A whole bunch of professionals, and they were going to go to Israel. And so I was like, okay, let's set it up where a North Point group goes to Israel. I'm not going to go. I wasn't even going to go on the trip. So a couple months before the trip, probably a few months before the trip, is I'm sitting there and just get talked into, you gotta go. I mean, it's something that's important for you, probably to go there at least one time. So I go. And going over there for me was fascinating because it becomes like this. It's like Bible college in the sense of you're doing a whole class of like Old Testament and New Testament history, and then but beyond that, you're seeing it all year long. So I love the educational part. So I'm leaning in, taking it. I love seeing people experience it. But 3 different trips now we've had. So I've had a couple different tour guides, and then on each tour, not only do you have a tour guide, you have like a theologian. So the tour guide's more of a historian from the culture, and then you get a theologian. And we've had a couple different theologians, and they're fascinating. And so I learned so much about the nuances of the culture and how just the geography is a very important character in Scripture. All this stuff, and how a lot of things that we read into it from a 21st century Western civilization culture, we're missing even some really rich meaning because we're reading it as if it was written to us. And even though it's for us, it wasn't to us. And so anyway, I love that. Well, then Marty Solomon, who is here, he's a scholar. He's been to Israel, I think 11 times or 13 times, something crazy.
Yeah.
And he's a Hebrew scholar and he's a cultural scholar. And so one of the things I did is I asked him, I said, what do you think about The Chosen? Hoping he would like it because I really love it. And normally people like that get a little bit, people like that. I'm not trying to pigeonhole Marty, but an expert, I would say expert in culture.
People.
Yeah, smart people, learned people, right? So a lot of times they'd be like, well, that's not how I would interpret it. I don't recommend it. He's like, I love The Chosen.
Really?
Yeah, he was like, I love it. And quote me, Marty Solomon loves The Chosen. You can post it. I'm sure he would be no problem with that. But he was saying, he's like, man, I really like the way they're presenting this. It's fascinating. And he goes, they're true to the culture. They're true to what the culture was in first century. They're true to the history. It does bring you in now. He says there's an agenda, and I can't remember which school of the Pharisees that The Chosen is kind of written from. There's, I don't remember. I'm not the guy. But he was talking about how there's even a school of the old school law. It's got kind of tilted the perspective. But he's like, but it truly is one of them. And he goes, this is great. It's fascinating. It's a helpful tool. So I was like, okay, well, Marty Solomon approves.
I love that. And I'm still going through season by season, but I've seen it. They've done episodes on The Chosen on Bema.
Oh.
Yeah. I've not listened to them.
Okay.
I'm still listening to a ton of other stuff, but I didn't know if it was for or against. So.
Well, and maybe I misunderstood him. And so if that's the case, go ahead and quote me quickly, because if I find out, then honestly, you would never have a chance to quote me.
And just put JJ on it. I wouldn't put Jeremy Johnson. No, I don't know. Because and then it could go either way.
Anonymous, because it's not about, it's not about.
No, it's not about you.
About that. No. So anyway, we just turned a whole episode into the Chosen and Bible. Let's do this though. We did have a conversation about, hey, what's something we would think could be a helpful conversation today. And one was, how do you keep the main thing the main thing?
Well, and it came from the Chosen. It came from watching these stories. So there's this. We're not completely off base.
Okay. Well, then I take back my apology.
We're not completely off base.
I don't think I gave it. I don't think I offered it.
No, you didn't. But it's one thing that you see throughout that story and the narrative that they're showing is that he had such limited time.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And we always talk about, like in our culture, in our day, of like, we just no time today. There's just no time. It's like, I think there might be. I think there might be time to get done what you need to get done.
Right.
So it's just really fascinating to watch this and how it's portrayed, that he knew exactly what he needed to do at the right times. Right? I mean, it's just so good. It's so good. So one of the things that I have seen you do really well within leadership, within pastoring, is making the thing that you're doing the main thing. I don't really remember a time where I'm like, what is Jeremy doing? Like, we get to work closely together, and in the office, I'm never like, is he even, what's he like? I don't understand what he's like. What is he working on?
Fantasy football.
It's
which I'm undefeated. I just throw that out.
And that's the main thing for you. Mm-hmm. I get it. Yeah. This season is fantasy football.
Yeah.
And I respect it. I respect it. Mm-hmm. And everyone around you does too. And we all see it. We all see it.
Now, the Bachelor draft is probably the second, but it is second to the busiest time of my calendar.
Bachelor draft?
Yeah. Like, wait, because not everybody gets on the show, so you have to you go through. I like the snake format. You can also do the auction, but what happens is then you choose which person's going to survive the longest on the show. And
okay,
I'm just kidding. I don't do that.
So I'd love to know, like, what do you do? How do you do that? How do you focus? How do you create rhythms? Yeah. What do you do in your life to create a well-intended week by week life?
Okay. Jesus would often say, I don't know if he often said this. I know he said this, so I don't know how many times. But he would say, I must be about my Father's business. I must be about my Father's business. And so it is this implication, exactly what you said, that time is tick-tock, tick-tock, it's going, and that there is a purpose to the days. There's a verse that we see Paul writes. He says, redeem the time because the days are valuable. And I don't mean, I think what that means is you bring the value out of the days. That's to redeem. Redeem a coupon is to bring the value out of the thing. Otherwise, it has the potential of value, but until you bring it to the thing that created it, then there's no value that comes out of it. So it's one of those ideas is our days are a gift. It's like a coupon. And so for me to redeem it, I need to bring the value out of that. So I give it back to God and say, okay, God, what is the best thing I can do today? And so for me, I don't know if this is the right way, but this is the way that I'm in a rhythm. I'm very compartmentalized. And you would know that in the sense of I'm very every day as a general rule has a very predictable pattern for me, and so and I know not every job is like this, but for me is Saturdays. There is, unless we have a give back event, okay. At 9 o'clock on Saturdays, I'm locked in. Like it's just because Saturdays is prep for Saturday night service. And so like, I don't go to breakfast on Saturdays. I don't go to a football game on Saturdays. Saturdays is Saturday, right? Like, so it's my rhythm. Everyone in my family knows it. I've been doing this for over 12 years. They know I go into my cave on Saturdays. I literally, we've got a room that I go into and so I wake up on Saturday and I don't have a manuscript for my weekend. And so, but I just have an outline that we have on our phones, our app. Okay. That's what I have. I've got notes that help me get that. But so Saturday, I just hang out and meditate and soak in what is this message. How is it developed? Sunday is all about church. Monday is all about team. So for me, I'm able to say, okay, Monday is team. Tuesday is prep to get the outline. So Tuesday is writing day. And then Wednesday is projects. So that's what I do. So if someone says, hey, so then for me, so I work, so because and a lot of us at North Point, a similar schedule is we have Saturday through Wednesday, which isn't always ideal when you have little kids running around. And so I ton of respect for the staff who have little kids, because people they're like, what do you do? Saturday is like a 1 hour day. No, for a lot of the staff, there's a lot of prep to make sure that 1 hour, works.
Yeah.
And if you have little kids, it's kind of a weird deal, but Saturday through Wednesday. So Thursday and Friday for me, that's my weekend. And so that's when it's time with Leanne, time with family, and I'm very compartmentalized. So for me, and every schedule is going to look different for everybody, but for me, here's the deal. My goal, I'm successful when my mind is in the same room as my feet. That's it. Okay. And so on Thursdays and Fridays, I don't do a lot of thinking about work. Part of it, and it's not because all the work is accomplished. It's because I just understand, I've been doing this for 12 years now, and I still probably got 20 more years that I have to work somewhere before I can not work anymore, right? Like I've got enough money to live comfortably until the day I die. If I quit now, if I died next Tuesday, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like But like if I'm gonna like live a lengthy life, which I want to prepare for, I've still got a couple decades left of gainful employment in me.
Say call it, man. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? That's like a week.
That's a week.
Sweet.
But I can live comfortably. Financial freedom.
Oh yeah.
Till the day I die. So all I have to say is, if I'm doing this for the long haul, to me it makes no sense to overwork during this whole deal. I got to think, what's my role as a dad? What's my father's business for me as a dad? What's my father's business for me as a husband? What's my father's business for me as an employer, as an employee, all these different things. And so what I do is I'm very compartmentalized. On this day, I'm doing that. So a couple of things it does. It allows me to not waste my time stressing on days that I'm not there to work. When my feet aren't there, it helps me not let my mind be there either. So that way I'm home. And so Leanne will often say this on a Thursday or a Friday: hey, are you ready for the message this weekend? After all these years, she'll still say that almost every Friday. You ready for the message this weekend? And I always say, I don't need to be today. That's not the weekend. The weekend, is on Saturday. I'll worry about that. And so even though I have no clue how it's going to come together, that's not Friday's problem. That's Saturday's problem. And so I compartmentalize. I'll worry about it on that day and on that day and on that day. And then I want to focus on this. So not only does it allow me not to stress about stuff on days that I'm not designed to do anything about it, it also allows me to be focused on the things on the days that I am to do something about it. So on Mondays, I'm thinking team. I'm thinking team rhythms. I'm thinking, how do I invest in the people who work here at North Point? On Tuesdays, I never wake up on a Tuesday and say, what do I do today, right? Except on days that I'm not speaking on that weekend. All of a sudden now I have a Tuesday where I can do special projects or whatever. And on Wednesdays, I'm thinking about overall big picture projects. So when someone says, hey, I want to meet, and it's not like, hey, let's go play pickleball. It's like, hey, I want to meet, I want to talk about something. I know exactly what parts of my weeks this fits. And I'm not going to put it in the wrong spot. As a general rule. Obviously, there are always exceptions, but as a general rule, that's my compartmentalization. I don't know. I don't even imagine that translates to anybody else's frame of work week. But I would say this: figure out how you can make sure your mind and your feet are in the same room. Figure out boundaries on both ends so that you can make sure you work hard when you're working and you don't work hard when you're not working, because no one pays you enough to work hard when you're not working, and someone pays you too much for you not to work when you're working. So
helpful.
Yeah. And you're pretty regimented as well. Like I would say, how many years have we officed together? Like we literally office in the same office.
8.
We're roommates.
Yeah.
Office mates.
Like bunk.
We
desks.
actually have roomed on trips too.
Right. But like, can you imagine like bunk desks?
Mm-hmm.
How cool
We
would that
actually
be?
have. Imagine that. We haven't done it, but we not because we haven't thought of it. So you're
Cool.
like you never. Now here's the deal. If you are not, I would say if someone says, is Justin Glenn, is he borderline lazy? I would say that would not be the issue. If someone says Justin Glenn work enough hours, I would say that's not the issue. You are a driver and a grinder.
Yeah, yes, right.
So how do you shut it off?
I don't do a good job. So I've learned.
So let's just talk together today how we can help you. So what does that look like for you?
Well, I'm very ready. I'm exactly like you, and I've learned a lot of that from you of making sure that I have very, very set days, right? Mondays are my team days. Tuesdays are outside project days. Wednesdays are one-on-one days. So individual team elements. And then Saturdays and Sundays. Saturdays are a little bit different me because I do projects on Thursdays sometimes. So then I kind of mix Thursday,
Yes,
Saturday.
Sometimes you do both.
I mix them.
Yeah, you mix them.
And then Sunday.
Yep.
But the one thing that I've always had an issue with it. And now I at least know the issue and I am moving forward and trying to figure it out. I feel like my life is like a, those old school like lunch trays.
Yes, I do. Very compartmentalized. Yes, I prefer them that way.
That is my life, right? I have that. But those walls aren't very high.
Okay. No.
So, but like my mashed potatoes and my applesauce usually kind of. Is
that a good thing?
It's not a good thing.
No.
You do not want applesauce in your potatoes. You don't want that. You don't want it.
Okay. Would you like gravy in your applesauce?
To eat the applesauce with the potatoes in it is not like horrible, but to eat the potato with the applesauce in it,
I could see
you
where
can't do that.
Oof.
Don't do that.
No.
But I feel like that's where I am right now. Like I know, and I'm very structured in that. But I'll find myself. We do a Sabbath every Friday, and I bet I am actually Sabbathing 70% of the time.
Okay.
Because there's times where I'll just find myself. I'm like, what am I doing? Right? And it's usually my girls that will say, hey, Dad, hey, it's Sabbath or it's family day. I'm like, I know. And I have gotten to a spot to where I can then flip, right?
Yeah.
Where 5 years ago, it was like, yeah, I know. Just give me a little bit more time. But I also, I'm going to cry. I know I don't have a little bit more time with them, right? So like they're getting older. So that changes the game for me too, to where I'm like, okay, I know the structure. I've learned from you. And now it's just put it into practice, right?
Yeah.
Execute on it. Just do it. And it's the same. Like that's when you say like Friday's problems are for Friday, Saturday's problems are for Saturday. I mentally know that. And physically somehow I'm like, but I could take care of it today.
But the challenge is, it's not like it'll make Saturday easier because you'll figure out some extra problems you can crack on Saturday.
100%, right? So yeah, very structured. I have but I still am working on that of figuring out and just coming to the realization, right? When you say your feet and your mind, your feet and your heart, the same room, same time, like that's just a meditation I have to come back to over and over and over and over and over. Because even I could put in 60 hours in a week. All right, I could work 80. I bet I could do 115. I don't even know how many hours in a week.
You
right?
probably have. But
it doesn't mean that they were productive.
Right.
Right. It's just movement. It's just action. And I'm like, I'm a grinder, but I'm like, am I getting like what I actually need to get done?
Yeah.
And this has been a year of like hardcore introspection of figuring that out. Cause I think when we was on this podcast that I'm like I feel like North Point's going to ask of me a lot more and a lot differently than what I've been able to provide the past 15 years. Right.
Yeah.
So if I still want to provide help for this organization and be a teammate, I got to change, right? I can't keep doing these things like I've done them. So it's been a crazy year, but it's so helpful to hear you say that and to picture how you do those elements and to watch The Chosen.
Yeah.
Because he does it.
Well, yeah, one of the things too is as a team lead with you, is it could be easy to say, for me to have sustainability, I need like 3 Justins who just burn the candle at both ends and allows me to have good margin in my life. That sounds gross, and it is gross. Yeah. What I want is to be able to have someone who could grind like you when you're working and have the longevity because you don't do that when you're not working. And I think all of us, wherever we're at, when you have an opportunity to evaluate the other teammates or to set expectations, watch yourself on that, because the tendency is to say, man, if they can have less margin, I have more margin, even though we would never say that out loud. But like for real, what we want to do is we want to have a healthy version of them. And otherwise you're burning people out. And sometimes the challenge is not because we want to burn them out, but maybe I'm not noticing or paying attention. And now you are burnt out. And it is because of the things that you felt indirectly a pressure from your team lead. And so if you're in a spot where you're a team lead, you got to watch that, because that's how you value the team. And the other thing too, we talked about this in a message a few weeks ago on approval, the ladder message. Which side note, were you hoping I fell, or were you hoping were you praying I didn't? Because statistically,
I'm just going to be honest with you. I was 50-50.
Yeah, no.
I mean, I'm like, I want you to be all right.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, pretty good story.
It would be a great story. It would be a great story.
So, but I'm glad you're
the workman's comp on that.
Oh
my word!
I'm glad you were fine though. I'm glad you didn't fall.
No, it's totally cool.
No.
But part of it is with that whole thought, you have to be willing to disappoint some people. So I know, I want to be a great pastor. I do. I want to be really, really good. Not because I want to be a celebrity pastor or I want to be a famous pastor. I want to leverage the time I have. But for me to be a healthy pastor, for the longevity that God's called me to be, whatever that is, that means I can't be everybody's version of a perfect pastor. Because then there's only so many hours in a day. And ultimately, I'd much rather be my girl's version and my son's now version of a perfect father, or a really good one. Leanne's version of a really good husband, or her favorite ever.
And just to be clear, like Sydney got married. You guys didn't have a baby. Because some listeners might think, whoa, congratulations, you guys. We didn't know.
We haven't had a baby. We are, we're open.
We
are open. We might need a biblical miracle on that one. Honestly, I feel like I'd do it better. Like my kids turned out awesome, but not because but little Terrell. And when I saw him for the very first time and I held him in my arms, I was like, you and me, man, we're twins. This is awesome. And so I'll tell you what, I didn't get to know Terrell till he was in his 20s, but I don't feel like I adopted him per se, but legally we're related now through marriage. But we're making up for lost time. We're going to game. We're watching games. We're actually planning a dude's trip. This is because that's what the Johnson family does. I've never had another dude to do a dude's trip with. Well, I've done dude's trips, but Terrell reminded me I've never done a Johnson family dude trip. And so we're going to start it.
I love it.
And when he has a little dude one day, maybe we'll just add them. But I don't know. Like I'm not really a big fan of traveling with babies. Just saying that. So like I didn't like it when I was a dad. I doubt if I like it I'm just kidding. But right now I just be an adjustment, but I'll do my best to put my mind where my feet are. And yeah. So
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. But I was just thinking.
No, I wanted to get there anyway.
Oh, okay, great. I was just thinking as a listener, they were there. They didn't track with you.
No, but now they are.
But now they're
totally
there. Now they're with you.
So
yeah.
Work on days that you need to work. Some people just need a reminder of that. And then don't work on days you're not working. And if you feel like you're in that tug of war and you have control, go somewhere when you have the next best opportunity where you don't have to have that tug of war, and it's not go somewhere you don't have to work as much. Go somewhere where they value you as a person when you have an opportunity. There are seasons, but when you have control over it, when you have an opportunity, when you have control over it, man, there's mental peace. Not because I'm solving things or I have no problems to solve. When I realize I have the freedom to solve them when they need to be solved, and not every time I think about them. The main thing, Chosen. You ought to keep watching.
I'm tired though. We're like, we'll watch one and then we're like, "And do another one."
Yeah.
And then it's like 1 a.m.
No,
that's not me. I go to bed early. It's been rough.
When Full House came out.
I get it, man. Yeah.
I mean, it was like, dude, Uncle Joey, guy's nuts, man. He's nuts. Like the shenanigans he pulls. I'm like, where you getting off, Uncle Joey?
So Joey.
So crazy.
So Joey.
I'm not going to spoil it, but
Don't.
all right. Thanks, Riff Raff.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Riff. We'll have a brand new episode every week, wherever you find podcasts.